Welcome to the Sunday Run podcast. Before we get started, please make sure you subscribe, rate the podcast, go and check out last week's solo episode. This week, we've got someone really cool, a really great mate of mine, Nathan Freeman. He was drafted in 2013, pick 10, so many injuries, like a lot of adversity, and just holds himself so well. It's such a great chat. Whether you like AFL or you don't like it, you can apply this to your life. Let's get into it. You beauty. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sunday Run podcast. We've got a big episode today, a big guest, a legend of a guest actually, Nathan Freeman. Mate, how are you?
Lou, I'm good, mate. How are you? Thanks for having me, first off.
Thanks for coming in. We did a run this morning.
We did do a run. It was very cold. It was probably, I think you boys were saying it was one of the coldest runs we've done, and it was my debut 7 a.m. run with you boys, so it was a rude shock. I rocked up in a singlet and you boys were...
You did.
Yeah.
You rocked up in a singlet. You were looking super jacked. Said how many gym sessions you've been doing. You actually don't train in the gym. And just before we get started, for those listening, we probably won't take much out of this podcast because he is the most gifted athlete I've literally ever met in my life. Like by far, you don't train in the gym. You're jacked. Like properly jacked as well.
I'll probably have to thank the parents for those genes, but mainly my dad. He's the same, but... Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'd say jacked, but I'm...
You are, like, in terms of, like, you're being humble and modest, but, like, in terms of just, like, a normal human who doesn't train, I mean, obviously you play footy and stuff, but, like, you don't really lift that many weights. You're jacked, mate.
Yeah, so, I don't know, mate. It probably stemmed from, through my AFL career. I was in the gym flat out, like, obviously through rehab and, like, we'll go into that later with my injuries, but, like, I used to love the gym and smash it. But now, I mean, like, for what I want to do, like, so I play football, I run socially with you boys. Like, for what I want to do, like, I'm strong enough, so I don't push myself in the gym. Like, I don't. Yeah, I think I was saying, I've been to the gym a little bit in the last couple of weeks, but yeah, I probably for the last 5 or 6 years, I haven't stepped foot in a gym. To be honest.
It's ridiculous. Like your shoulders and your arms and obviously your pecs as well just hold so much like size. Do you have anything you're specifically training for at the moment?
Not really, no. I just like being fit in life, really. I think you feel good, you run. I play football for Dingley Footy Club just locally. That was my junior club, and shout out to those boys if they're listening. But yeah, mate, like not specifically training for anything, but yeah, just mainly daily life and being able to, like, I find and people listening will know, but running, I think you've sort of found out in the last little bit, Louis, but like running with mates and like training with mates and exercising, like it's such a good, like instead of, catching up at the pub for a beer and that's what you do to socialise, or you sit and get a coffee obviously, but like being able to go out and get active, kick the footy with mates, go for a run, like there's nothing better really. So yeah, I like that side of it really.
It's the same as like the Breathhaus, which we'll get into in a bit. It's like if you can change up your kind of, your dates with mates or you're catching up with mates to something that's healthy and positive. It's especially throughout the week, like you're just so better set up. I feel like your fitness level is like it's like that real peak goal for a lot of people. Like you're not obsessive over it, like in an unhealthy amount, but you're also like, so we did a 10K or we did an 8K this morning. Like you were chatting the whole way, like super easy, probably the fittest there, and you don't even have to train too much for it. So it's really impressive. Now, I just wanted to introduce you for those who don't know you, Freeze. You were pick 10 in the 2013 draft by Collingwood. Traded the Saints in 2015. You finished up footy 2018, at the Saints. Footy, a huge part of your life. Were you a Jet from day one?
I wouldn't say I was a Jet from day one. I probably came, came good probably around 16s, really. I wasn't, the best player through there, but I didn't actually play for Vic Metro or didn't play AIS or any of those like Australian rep squads. My first year for Vic Metro was in my under 18s year. So I sort of was a bit of a bolter in my draft year. So I was always like naturally gifted as I used to do athletics and played all like a variety of sports, but yeah, like I probably wasn't dominant early years, but I guess it just sort of came good, but shot up in my 18s year.
So so your 18s year, when your name got called out and stuff, obviously you knew you were going to get drafted if you were going like pick 10. Were you shocked with who you were going with, or like were you pretty sure that they were going to pick Collingwood was going to pick you up?
Yeah, it was funny actually. Like obviously saying I bolted up in my 18s year, like, and this is back when there was no live trading. Like the draft picks were set. So sort of got towards the end of the year, and I remember sitting down with my managers, and I think Melbourne had picked 9, Collingwood had picked 10. Melbourne were really interested, as were Collingwood. And there's another player, Christian Salem, who I grew up playing with. We played for the same side in Sandy Dragons. And I think the day of the draft, we obviously went up to the draft in Gold Coast because, you know, we had to get up on stage, and if you're top 10, you get your photos. And I think he said, if Melbourne don't pick you, you're going to Collingwood. But if Christian Salem's gone before pick 9, you're going to go to Melbourne at 9. So I had a fair idea of where I was going to go. Like I said, no live trading. And then as Christian went at 9, like I knew I was going pick 10. So I was pretty happy to, like, obviously I would have played anywhere, but like being able to stay in Victoria at a big club, like I was like really excited where I was going, wherever I was going to go.
You look at the kids who get drafted these days, they're full like they're proper athletes, but they're also so like media trained, so switched on. I feel like 2013 is like the start of kind of that starting to happen. Did you notice that at all? Like, was getting to an AFL club in a professional environment stressful, or did you have to make many adaptations? Yeah,
you're right about that. Was where it sort of started turning to be a little bit more professional, especially coming through the 18s. Like nowadays, like the NAB League, we've got baseline footy, we've got AFL Central. Like these kids are like Harley Reid, for example. He's already a celebrity now. Like every under 12 to AFL players know who this kid is coming through, and you know his highlights are posted all on Instagram. But yeah, like I think sort of through my 18s, I think Instagram had been around for 2 years. Like there was probably just that turning point of like, okay, let's maybe more media into the under 18 kids. The NAB League, it was a TAC Cup back then. That was getting a bit more professional in how the programs were run. So kids were more ready to step into an environment than ever before. And like it's whole nother level now. But yeah, that was when I reckon it started to get a little bit more professional coming through.
Yeah, interesting, mate. It's crazy to see the ones coming through now. Like they're full grown. Like their interviews so boring because like they're so media trained. But good on
100%. Yeah,
you don't want to watch it.
You don't want to like, and we'll touch on this later. But like through my management, AFL management career that I've stepped into after footy, like I worked a lot with those junior kids, and like I just love. Like they're kids, they're playing footy. Like you can't knock it out of them.
Yeah.
Like it's like there's obviously the media world, and you know if a player steps foot, and there's I think it's like 7 to 1 journalists to AFL play. So there's people looking for stories and opinions all the time. But so you can see why players shy away from giving their true personalities, because there's always going to be someone there to knock them. But yeah, mate, like I love, like you can't lose that childlike excitement and exuberance. Like fans love it. Like you got players like Jack Ginnivan, and like players, like people either love him or hate him, but like he's exciting. And that's like what the game needs. You need a lot of those personalities, or else it's just like the same. Every interview is the exact same. You can just copy and paste them.
Yeah, so, literally. So, credit to the boys and
credit to the boys. 1 week at a time.
Yeah,
like,
the classic.
Rinse and repeat, mate.
You would have been running a clinic doing those. So all right, so you get drafted. You go to Collingwood. How long did it take you before you played? I mean, I know this is all like a bit of a grey area, and I'm actually not that well researched on it. So talk us through like the process to getting your first game, even from getting drafted to like playing VFL and so on. Yeah,
so got drafted, obviously picked 10. Everything happens really quickly. I think the draft was probably on a Thursday or Friday night. Day one's Monday morning. Even for like the interstate boys, like we had 2 guys, Jonathan Marsh and Matt Scharenberg from Perth and Adelaide, and then they're flying in that weekend. So it happens really quickly. So day one at the club, you're sort of just chilling out. You're getting set. You're getting acclimatised to what the whole program is, and you're meeting the players. And yeah, went through the pre-season unscathed, really. Like I loved it, ate it up. Got to my first NAB Cup game, which is now the JLT series, so pre-season competition. Got picked to play against Geelong down at what's it now, GMHBA Stadium. And this is back when like I've lined up on Jimmy Bartel, and like all these like guns were still playing in these preseason comps. So it was actually like, it was crazy. And yeah, like I think start of the second quarter, I think I got a handball receive off Jamie Elliott in the back flank. Quinton Lynch was leading up at me.
Yeah.
I said Q stick, double back, mate. No, he said doubles back. And I'm like, fuck, I don't know if I've got the length here. So I gave it a little bit extra to try and pop it out the back of Q stick. But it's I was running too fast and I tried to kick it too hard. And I just felt like my hammy just burst.
Yeah.
Never done a soft tissue injury before. So I had no idea what was going on. So I think there's some fun. No, it's not funny, but there's some footage of it online. I know it exactly when it happens, and I run straight off to the bench. And I remember, like, I got on the bench. Pete Bequia, our doc, looked at me. He's like, "Oh, let's do a hammy test. Let's see how you're going." And I just nothing there. Like, my hammy was just gone. And he's like, "Oh, mate, like, you've done your hammy." And I remember I whacked the bench. I was like, fucking, I was so pissed off. And I think at the time I got told it was going to be like a 3 or 4 week injury, but like fast forward 2 years, mate, it was one thing after another. But yeah, it was. I don't know why it happened. Like, it was just maybe my loads were too high, or like my body was just too, red hot, like with my training loads or something. But yeah, it was a funny one, man. Like, we still probably don't pinpoint why it happened, but yeah, it did.
So first hammy, you've never done it soft tissue. You do it playing footy, obviously, like running too quick. So after that, was that a 2-year hammy? Like, it was constant trying to get it back. You'd go back through the VFL, do it again, same one? Yeah,
so I think so I didn't get it initially operated on. So it was a weird one. It was tendon to tendon, so it wasn't off the bone. It was the tendon snapped like in the middle, so it was still attached at each end. But yeah, mate, like coming back, I just had setback after setback, couldn't get it right. And like credit to like Collingwood, we took it so conservative and so like because I'm like, I was such a power athlete and I was, my speed was my one wood. Like, that was what I based a lot of my game around. We took it really easily, but we just like ran out of time towards the end of the season. It was quite a big hammy, so it was going to take a while anyway. But yeah, like we pretty much shut me down for the rest of the season. So I missed my whole first year. Fast forward into my second preseason, I dropped a few kilos just to see if it would take the weight off my body. It didn't really do too much. I think it was probably about around 3 or 4 in the VFL the next year. I did it again, had surgery, missed that whole year. So I'd played, half a NAB Cup game and about 3 VFL games in my 2 years at Collingwood. So yeah, it wasn't a great start.
Where did like the demons start kind of creeping in, so to speak? Like obviously you've done your hammy, but you're so young. Like you've already played. Like you've started a game. It's like you're going to be all right. You expect you're going to make it through. Was it the second hammy, or was it like a specific week where you remember where I was like, holy shit, I'm so dark about this?
Yeah, man. Like, I'm a pretty optimistic bloke. Like, I see the fun in everything, and I like to have fun. But yeah, I was probably like midway through that first year, probably, where it's like, okay, like this is going to take a bit longer than what we thought. Then you have the blokes that have drafted around you playing well, and it's like, fuck, like I'm, you see the, Christian Salem playing, and then you see the Josh Kelly's playing, and Zach Merritt's, and the guys that I'd like grow up playing with, and I'm sitting in rehab on the exercise bike. Like, we don't have a return date for me. We'll just shut me down for the year. I'm like, yeah, that's probably when it creeps in, and you're like, okay, then. But the club are really good about. They're like, there's no rush. We can shut you down for the year. It's going to be okay. But like, mate, I'm in a rush all the time. Like, I want stuff done yesterday. So it's probably a big part of that was I had Ben Reid at the time going through a fair bit of injury issues himself. So, mate, we were thick as thieves in rehab. Like, we did everything together, probably for like those whole 2 years. So, man, like if I was by myself every day, every session, I would have struggled a lot more than what I did. But yeah, it's like rehab. I don't know if people are listening, but rehab group in AFL, especially long-term rehab, it's such a it's a lonely place, because like half the time you're in before the boys, you're doing your stuff like by yourself or like with 1 or 2 others in the rehab group, and then the boys go out and train and you're inside doing your weights, and then you eat lunch at a different time and you might go home a bit earlier. So like you're not really like, you've got to really push to like still keep that, sense of, not team, but like stay in touch with like what's happening in the team, especially long-term injuries. Cause yeah, it can, like, your mind can wander and you go, oh fuck, I don't care about the boys who are playing this week. I don't want to jump in that meeting. Like, yeah, so that was a big hurdle for me to overcome. But yeah,
Did the club do much in regards to like mental health stuff? I don't know. It probably wasn't as prominent back then, but like, was there, obviously you had, you know, people looking over you and stuff and checking in. Was there much kind of mindfulness practice or anything like that?
no, not so much mindfulness practice. We did have like I confided a lot in like the physios were basically like our therapists. Like we'd sit on the massage table. Like some of the guys like Scruff and Lockie Fuchs, like these guys who I'm not sure if they're still there anymore, but like in the afternoons we'd have 10 blokes in a physio room just like chatting shit. Like it was such good fun. But so those guys were really good for me. Spend pretty much 24/7 with those guys at the club. We had a psychologist, David Stiff. He was amazing. But yeah, not so much like club led mindfulness practices. Like blokes still did it, but you sort of go out and do your own thing. Like you go suss it out and scope out what you want to do outside of the club. But yeah, that's like I was really well supported.
Yeah.
With a lot of good people.
What about looking back through your hamstring stuff? Was there anything like kind of crazy remedies you tried? I mean, obviously you tried everything. Did you ever go overseas for it? Or?
Oh mate, I could write a book. I could write a book, man.
No,
like what if there was any modality of like rehab that was out there? Like I was like looking at it, doing it, researching it. Like it was nuts. I think. What did we do? A few times, like I went up to the AIS a few times to like see like hamstring specialists up there, like get these like see these special doctors. I went over to Germany twice to see a guy called Hans Wolfhart. He's worked with Ronaldo, Usain Bolt, like Vladimir Klitschko, like some of these absolute stars. He was actually Bayern Munich's club doctor. I think he still is. But yeah, like I went over in my first year. After my first year at St Kilda, me and Andrew Wallace, the physio, we flew over to Munich for the week. And yeah, like there was just a series of like injections. It's called Activegan. It's completely legal. Like you have to get it ticked off and stuff by the AFL, but all that sort of stuff. And this guy's like world renowned. Like, so we went over there, you see his physio, you see his chiro, you see him. It's just like a week intensive sort of like program, and then nick off, fly home. And I actually went okay with my body the next year. So I think it was like first week of preseason, and the physios are like, hey, like, do you want to go back to Munich and see your guy? I'm like, yeah, done. So I ended up paying for myself. Like it cost me a bomb, but like to fly over to Munich, see him again, fly back. But that was the thing, man. Like if anything was going to help like 1 or 2%, like I was looking at it, like I was doing it. That was probably like the time where I was almost like desperate. You get your head in like such a pickle. I think because I'd tried so much stuff and what I was doing like wasn't exactly working. So I was like, fuck it, like I was researching like what's going on with my hammies, like what does this mean? What does that mean?
Your own
yeah,
stuff,
like how like just I was looking at like research papers and stuff. Like I'm the least like
academic.
Like I don't read it all. Like, and I was like on research papers online looking at stuff. But yeah, man, I think what ended up working for me, or what ended up, you know, I came to the conclusion like less was definitely more with me. Like I was doing so much gym work, so much rehab, looking at all this stuff, and like at the end of the day, like now my body's so good and I do like hardly anything.
I was just about to say, we're chatting about it on the run this morning as well. It's like you were saying you were so dialed in through your career, like through AFL career, where it's like every number, every macro, every calorie that's going into your body, you're checking it. Whereas now you don't even train much, like to a program or anything, and your body's going so well.
That's right. Like I think, and it's a good term. It's like paralysis by analysis. You can like obsess over like, you know, your training data, like you hit your high speed, you ate that amount of calories per day, you slept this amount, like that's all really good, but like they can get to like an obsessive amount, and where it's actually like detrimental to what you're trying to do. So yeah, like I used to like sometimes like before games you'd weigh yourself to obviously see your hydration levels and stuff, and like if I was a bit under, I'd be like, oh, like I don't think I'm carved up enough
today.
Yeah, like if I'm a little bit heavy, I'm like, oh, if I'm gonna feel sluggish out there. Towards the end, like I'd still weigh myself so the high performance guys could look, but I'd be like, don't tell me. Like I'll weigh it, but like don't tell me, because now I go on a lot of like how I feel. Like I don't track really, like I'll obviously track runs and all that sort of stuff, but like I don't really, if I feel good and I feel like I look good and I'm playing okay and I'm doing the things that I want to do, like what are these numbers going to do? They're just going to get in my head. So yeah. And I've got a bit of like not an obsessive personality, but like I'm very like, if I want to do something or like I get an idea in my head, like I want to go for it. So yeah, I think like being able to like take that handbrake off me, and now I just like go with the flow, go with how I feel.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big thing. But like saying that though, that comes from like trial and error. Like I'll like you name it, I've done it, and you sort of just pick a few different things that you feel like you can sort of implement without getting too obsessive. But yeah, like it might be, you might go, okay, like I feel good when I foam roll. Like you do one or two different things and you go, okay, like that's enough for me. I can still do what I want to do. I feel good. My body feels good. You don't have to go above and beyond, because then it gets to a point where it's like detrimental to your performance.
Do you wish you kind of did that more in your career? Like,
yeah, I do. But like I sit here saying that now, but like at the time, like you can't really do that. Like you have to go through the shit a little bit to pick out what works for you and what's good. I think we'll touch on this with like my player management stuff, but like younger players, yes, you should push them to do as much as they can. Like, hey, like do your recovery, do your ice bars, do your stretching, do your foam rolling, do this, do that. And then once they become, 23, 24, 25-year-old players, like you find out what works for you and your body and what's, makes you tick, and what works for one player doesn't work for the other. So I think it's just like a natural maturity thing.
You would have been just like the ideal player manager because you've been through it all. So you went to the Saints after the Pies. You played one game. Two games, sorry, at the Pies. Get to the Saints, continued with hammy issues.
Yeah, so I got to the Saints. My first year was a disaster. I had hammy issues. Like I pretty much hardly played that first year at the St Kilda. And the main reason I left for St Kilda was like I needed at least a 2 or 3 year, because I knew that first year was going to be like let's get back into it, because I missed 2 years of footy. Like I wasn't going to come out and shoot the lights out. So I went to St Kilda. It was a 3-year deal, so like that was great. First year was like, okay, let's like rebuild my body, basically, like get my body back up. But I was just like hammy after hammy, and like little ones, like it was like 1 or 2 weekers all the time. Just kept like
same leg,
yeah. And that's like, that just wears you down, because you get so close. You're on the track, you're training, you're so close, but then it's like you nick your hammy, and it's like, okay, like it's gonna be 2 weeks. Get back in, then you start running again in the next week, and it's like it was almost like cruel, because you're so close, but then something like nicks you again, and it's like, so that was the thing. So the first year was a disaster. Second year was a bit better. I played, I think, 14 games in the VFL, started to come on quite well. But I think we were talking about this pre-podcast. I changed the way I played a lot. I was, I'm not saying I'm anywhere near, but like I was compared to like a Dangerfield, like Luke Shuey type, but like in that sort of mold of player, like an explosive type player. Yep. Whereas I went from that to more of like a Sam Mitchell, Tom Mitchell type player, where it's like I was more of an accumulator distributor. I still had like a lick of speed, but I knew the confines of what I had to play in to not put myself at risk of doing more injury.
Because it's injury, because now you're playing consistently every week. You're not picking up as many injuries. Yeah. Like, it's like what's the difference between now and then? And obviously it's your style of game, isn't it? And it's obviously like a lower level. Like it's not as intense.
But I probably like still go hard, like as hard. Yeah, like I think that was the main thing. Like I had to change the way I played for sure, because if I kept trying to play as that explosive player, I just kept doing hammies, and I could keep trying to be like that, but after 3 or 4 years, I'm going, something's got to give. And so probably all those years watching a lot of footy, being on the sidelines, I love the game. Like I watched a lot of like those types of players. Yeah, like the Tom Mitchells, and like Sam Mitchell was playing, and sort of like those. Like I started watching a lot of different players, and like being able to read the game a little bit better. So when I like did return, like I knew, like I was a lot smarter of a player. Like I had to, like I lost my speed, but I think I gained a lot in like my IQ and like reading the game. So I think that's like now I play and I've played VFL for a couple of years now, and now I'm just playing local, but like I think that's the big turning point of like, I don't get as injured as much, and I find the ball more than I ever have. So yeah, like I just worked out what the confines of what my body would allow me to do, and just try to like maximize those other areas of like, okay, like being able to read the game, knowing where the ball's going to go, like a kick or two beforehand, upping my endurance. Like I was a good runner, but like I was like, okay, like I need to make these other parts of my game elite, because I know I've lost a little bit of speed, and that was like my number one like sort of weapon. So yeah, I just looked at other parts of my game and where I could improve.
We interrupt this episode with a cheeky ad break. Please keep listening, because Before You Speak Coffee has really been helping me out. I love Before You Speak Coffee. I'm fully addicted to coffee, which is fantastic because it tastes so good. It gets me started in the morning, and Before You Speak is so easy to use. I literally put the sachets in a mug, pour a bit of hot water, and I'm good to go. Next up, we have Brooks. You guys know I absolutely love Brooks, and so many of you have supported me by buying a pair, and I really do appreciate it. So far, I'm using the Glycerin 20s. They are so good on the feet for the longer runs. They really protect my feet. They keep my joints nice and cushioned. And yeah, they're super fashionable as well. Like Brooks has such an incredible range for both men and women, and I'd really recommend checking them out. Let's get back to the episode. So footy finishes in the AFL. Did you struggle with any identity loss? Like were you a bit, flat after, footy finishing up?
Yeah, you're flat, 100%. Like it, and anyone that tells you they're not, like they've either played 300 games and retired and they're happy, or there's always, it's a flattening experience, because it's what you've wanted to do for so long, and then you get there and it's like for myself, like you get drafted pick 10, you think you're going to play 300 games and be a star.
Yeah,
exactly, but it rarely happens that way. I think it was something like 3% of AFL players play over 150 games, like draftees. So it's
brutal.
Yeah,
stat.
it's a brutal like industry, man. Like, and it's only getting more and more sort of cutthroat. Like the more money that gets into the game, and the more the list sizes go down. I think the list sizes went down 2 or 3 the last couple of years, and it's like that's 60 players that aren't playing AFL that would have been across the league. So yeah, man, it's only getting more brutal and brutal. But yeah, I think you do go through a little bit of identity loss. I was a little bit better prepared for it, because I think sort of through my last year at St Kilda, I knew it was make or break for me. Basically, I was coming out of contract. I'd had hamstring surgery at the start of the year. Came back, second game back, I tore my AC joint really badly. So I was meant to have surgery on that. Played after 2 weeks, just literally played with injections. So I couldn't feel my shoulder. Yeah. Strapped it up, moved from inside midfielder to the wing. And then, just played all year like with a bung shoulder. Ended up playing 2 games towards the end of the year. But I think midway through that year, my manager sat me down and basically said, hey, if it doesn't work out for you, and like you said before, like through my journey and my roller coaster of my career, I think I've gained the experience to be able to like impart on other players, I guess. So yeah, like I had that lined up for when I did finish. So I was sort of like, and I'm a realist, man. Like I get the industry. Like you can't carry a bloke who's been injured for 5 years and have him on your list, and like it just doesn't happen. So I knew it was coming. It doesn't get any easier really. Like that initial, when you sit down, like you walk in your exit meeting, there's not the CEO, like the footy ops manager and the coach and the high performance manager, and you walk in, and I walked in, I'm like, fuck, here we go, just give me the board, boys. Like I walk in, but then you still like hold on to that little bit of hope. Like I'm like, oh, there might be like a little bit. Sit down, and I think like Richo was like, look, like, we're not going to beat around the bush. Like it's not fair on you, it's not fair on us. Like we're not going to go with you next year. And I think like it's still just like get ya. I was like, I knew it was happening, but like until they say the words, you're like, there might be a little bit of hope. But then I walked out. It was a very quick meeting. Like I basically just said like, there's no much more to talk about, because exit meetings you talk about your year and like going forward and what's to come, and like here's your program for the off season. But I was like, I don't give a fuck. I don't care, boys. Like so. I'm like shook their hand, like Rich, like thanks for everything, mate. Like they gave me a really good opportunity. Like I'm so thankful I'm so thankful. I walk out, and then like it's so brutal. Like, I'll literally walk straight down to the locker room. You get a bag, clean out your locker.
Put stuff in a box.
On the day, it's like
walk out.
they give you the bullet, and you're like, all right, you're still walking out the stairs. I'm still bleeding out. Walking to the locker room. Got a garbage bag. You like, chuck all your boots in there. You chuck all your stuff, and like hand your key card in. Like, all right, boys, it's been good. Like,
It's been real.
This is my home. This has been my home for the last couple of years. But yeah, it's been like the support after. Like, you get a lot of support. Like, we had one of the best player welfare managers in the AFL. He's still there, Tony Brown. Like, he's a weapon. So the support's definitely there. Like, I'm hamming up a bit. But it's brutal, but like, they put the support in.
Yeah, of course. Mate, it's so interesting. So then after footy, you're into being a player manager. And it's not just something you just rock up and say, to one day, like, I want to be a player manager. You have to be selected to get onto the course, is it? And then
yeah. So I was very lucky. Like, I never did any university or anything. Like, so there's, sports management degrees and all that sort of stuff. But I think and probably what my managers, so Paul Connors at Connor Sports, what they saw in me was like, I had the actual real world, like, lived experience of being a player and the other side of it. Like, I was so engaged in when I got contracts, or like I was in their office like once a week. So I just love those boys, like Robbie D'Orazio, Paul. Like, I was in there on my day off, just like shooting the shit. Like, so I was very like, I knew the business of footy. I'd played, I'd had more downs than ups. Like, it's the way it goes. So I went into play management. He goes, mate, come on part-time, see if you like it. If you enjoy it, like, let's, look at something, more formal in the future. So I went in, pretty much went full-time straight away, like, loved it. I love footy. I love chatting footy. I love the business side of it as well. And yeah, like, I think, like you said, the AFLPA run a course. You have to get accredited by the AFL to be a player manager. And every year, like, a huge amount of applicants apply. I think they take in about 20 to 25 people. And it's actually quite hard. Like, the rules and regulations around being an AFL player manager, they're massive, and you've got to know them. So you go through the course, you sit down, do the final exam, and the final exam's like bloody tough. Like, it's a 3-hour exam. It's open book, but like, it's really tough. And I could see if someone's come from not in the AFL environment trying to be a player manager, it would almost, not impossible, but it's really hard. So yeah, like, went through that, did that. I think out of the 20 people that I went through in the intake, I think like 5 or 6 dropped out during the course, and I think 3 dropped out during the exam. They're like, this is too hard.
Really?
So, but it's the way it's got to be. Like, the AFL are really good. Like, you don't want just anyone wanting to be a manager, because you're dealing with people's lives and their finances and that sort of stuff. So they do it really well.
And it's advice at the end of the day, isn't it?
That's
like,
right.
It's so serious. It's people's whole career. I remember you saying to me, obviously went through a bit with all the social stuff a month or two ago, and saying, like, with managers, and I kind of felt this as well, it's like when things are going well, you almost feel as though, as the client, as the talent, or as the player, you feel as though the managers are taking a little bit too much. Like, oh, geez, 20% or 15% or whatever it is. And then when things go south, like when there's controversy or scandals, it's like you give them 100%. Like they are so worth it. They work overtime. Did you find that when you were a manager?
So true. And I probably felt, I didn't really feel it during my career because I was really tight with my managers. But like, players talk all the time, and they're like, oh fuck, I haven't spoken to my manager for a couple of weeks, and they're taking 4% of my contract. But it's like you said, like, it's not. You need your managers when things are going bad, and
it's like insurance.
And that's what they do. That's what they're versed at. They're in crisis management, that sort of stuff. Like, and even just like adversity, right? Like, it's going in the AFL system. It's not if, but when you're going to encounter some sort of adversity, whether it's like injuries, whether it's being out of form, whether it's off-field issues, whether it's relationship issues, whether it's getting caught doing something you shouldn't be doing. Like. That's when you need your managers. And like, it's no one goes through their career being 100. Like, a career there's no perfect career. Like, it doesn't exist. So that's when you need your managers.
Oh, mate. So it's such an interesting industry. It'd be so hard to tap into if you hadn't already played or been heavily involved, I'd imagine. Do you so after player management, you've like it's Breathhaus. Like, that's what's next for me in my timeline of you. I mean, is there a little bit between there or?
No, not really. No, I went straight from play management. But it's funny how, like, mate, if you told me I was going to open up a breathwork studio 6 months ago, I would have thought you were silly. Like, I dabbled in a little bit through my career with a few different like performance coaches. Like we did towards the end of like my career, sort of 17, 18 at St Kilda. We did start incorporating a bit more mindfulness stuff. So I was introduced to a little bit of breathwork there, and I enjoyed it. Like I loved like looking outside the box at different stuff. And I met Ella Pike, who's my business partner now.
We've had her on the pod, yeah.
She's a weapon. Like, and everyone that's listened to that podcast, you know just how like warm, inviting. Like she's just like a magnet of like people just are drawn to her. So met Ella. I'm trying to think of the timeline. We met. I was sort of like, you know, I'm very much not like a blokey bloke, but come from a footy background. You're not really into that holistic spirituals type of stuff.
Yeah, the woo-woo stuff.
The woo-woo stuff, mate. And I say, it's funny, like I'll tap on it later, but I think Ella, like met Ella, and it's like, oh, she does breath work. And I'm like, oh, I sort of know what breath work is. And she's like, I'm in the real spiritual side of it. So Charlie, our good mate, me and Charlie, I'm like, oh, no, I'm not going to. She's like, come to a class. I'm like, no, I don't want to come. Like, it's
Charlie before it.
Not for me.
Yeah.
Charlie, and one Sunday afternoon, me and Charlie weren't doing anything. We're like, oh, we'll go, like, see how it is. And mate, like, it was like, it blew my mind. Like, it was like I'd never, like, I'd done the yoga, I'd done the meditation, done the mindfulness, like, just try to do it yourself on an app or whatever. It's like, this was like on steroids. Like, my brain shut off for an hour, and I'm, you know, like hyper focused, and I'm like turbo. I want things done really quickly. Like, I'm like, that's the first time I've actually like not had a thought and like deeply meditated. Like I knew what it was, like meditation was and stuff, but like I'm like, yeah, it's like, it's good to do and it's good for you. But until you like have that experience and that moment of like, wow, like that was wild, I was like sold. Like I say to all the boys now, like all my mates who are blokes who had never heard of it, AFL players that, you know, I'm still close with. It's like, until you do it, you don't get it. Like you've just got it. And then once you do it, like the boys are like, that was wild. Like I'm in, like I love this. So yeah, now we have, I think classes when I first met Ella were like 90-10 female to male. And now it's like 50-50.
Oh, definitely.
It's starting to like really kick off. And I think obviously the importance of, you know, mental health and mindfulness and all that type of stuff. And that's really starting to come to the fore. And I think like this is such a unique modality of it, but in my experience, like in my opinion, the most like intense, focused form of like meditation. And you know, if people listening haven't done breathwork before, like there's amazing breathwork facilitators out there. Like just go try it, see how you go. Obviously, I'm with the Breathhaus, but like there's amazing people doing amazing things everywhere. And
I think that's why you and like Ella complement each other so well, and why the Breathhaus is going to be so like, or it already is like, you know, leading in its area. So just for context for those listening, so you and Ella are in the Breathhaus together. You started it 6 months or so ago.
Yeah, we sort of got the idea like October last year, but we didn't open the studio till about April.
Yeah, and it's a breathwork studio that anyone can go down. You can like sign up and go and do some breathing, and it's so much more than just breathing. It's a form of meditation. It's, if anything, just a reason to lie down, listen to some beautiful music, and give yourself time to think. You two complement each other, I think, so well, because like you're this like footy, you know, like very masculine kind of male, and then Ella's like very, you know, warming, loving, kind of like a bit of a fairy at times.
Yeah, she's a fairy,
and we absolutely love her for it. And you guys can bring such different types of individuals to the Breathhaus. That's how I got involved through you, Nath, is just being like, look, it's not like, yeah, it can be a little bit like woo-woo, but just come down, give it a go, and it will be what you make it. And like, it's so incredible. Have you had, I mean, you get a lot of AFL teams involved, or AFL players at least. I've seen a fair few at the sessions I've been through.
Yeah, we get a lot actually. I think it's funny. It probably started with, so Cody Waitman is a good mate of mine. He's very like alternative indie. He came down, loves it. He brings one or two boys. They come down, they love it. And then it just sort of like grew from there. I think now we've got, yeah, mate, like anywhere from like 30 to 40 AFL boys come through a week, just joining in classes. And we've done private sessions for like the Western Bulldogs, and we're in talks with a lot of like different sporting clubs, because I think it's one, like there is performance benefits to it in terms of like aerobic capability and all that sort of stuff. And we can touch on that. But just in like terms of that mindfulness stuff, like living in such a stressful job and stressful environment where you're scrutinized on, you know, your off-field stuff, your on-field stuff, you don't play well on the weekend, you know, the media's coming for you and your coaches and you're out of form and you're out of favour. Like being able to come and just like de-stress, get in your parasympathetic state, because being in like a high-stress environment, you're always in your fight or flight mode. Like things are busy, you've got to be on, you've got to be like hyper-aware, but being able to like switch off, it's like meditation on steroids. Like I was saying before, the way that we run classes is it's almost like a sort of like a group fitness F45 type setup, where we do classes so twice a night, like a 6 o'clock and a 7:30, and you need to, you know, lay at home on a YouTube video or an app and do it yourself, and you're like, oh, am I doing it properly? Like your mind's wandering, oh, your phone's going off, you need to look at that. Like ours is, we've got it all set up for you. You come in, you lay down, we've got all the equipment, Ella's, you know, beautiful guided meditation. You turn your phone off. There's no reception in our place anyway, which is perfect. So you lay down and then you get your hour of meditation, and you can tick the box for almost the week. Like we have guys that come in regularly week after week, and it's just like, it's part of their routine now. You go for, you know, you train in the morning, you go to your 45, you come to Breathhaus. Like it's sort of that like holistic sort of, you know, aspect.
And like for those listening, men and women, it's such a, like what we were talking about at the start of the podcast, in like kind of coming up with alternative dates with mates or with your girlfriend or whatever that doesn't involve drinking or anything, you know, necessarily unhealthy. Like go to the Breathhaus and then you're right on Chapel Street. You can go out for dinner after.
Yeah.
It's like it's the perfect setup. I'd really encourage anyone listening to give it a go. Do you have any bigger plans for Breathhaus or anything in the pipeline?
Yeah, we do have, like, I think the reception we've got straight off the bat has been amazing. Like it's really taken off, and I think it's sort of just a credit to like the people that we know and the people that are around our sort of age, like who are actually like delving into these modalities, and it's like this is important for them. So we're just there to facilitate. Like people come in, it's almost like the people's studio. Like it's a community studio. Like people come in, you'll probably see on Instagram, people write on the walls and write messages and draw pictures. It's like we just love being able to like facilitate such a great space and hold space for people. But so like going back to what you were saying, like the reception's been amazing. I probably thought we're 6 to 12 months off having this sort of, you know, being this busy. We want to open up obviously some more studios, whether that's, you know, another one in Melbourne, say like a Fitzroy area, Northside, or we go up to the Gold Coast. But yeah, like we get people from all over the country now sort of hitting us up on DMs and emailing us saying like, oh, you guys coming up to the Goldie, like come to Sydney when you're opening up in you know, Fitzroy or Northside. So there's demand out there. Like we've had some good validation from our studio now, but like we just want to be able to just bring this to everyone, because there's nothing out there like it. Like there's other facilitators who are amazing, but there's no one place you just go for breathwork.
It's such a masterclass in business, if you ask me. Like you started out with such pure intentions of getting people down to the beach. Like you were doing ice baths and stuff as well, like all for free, and just creating this community, which like I've repeated 70 times to people asking me how to grow a social following. It's like, just create community. The rest will follow. Like, don't even worry about money. Obviously, like if you're safe enough in a financial position where you don't have to worry about money, that's fantastic. But it started out with you guys going down to Elwood Beach, didn't it? You were spending X amount on ice every, you know, like week or every Saturday, and just like creating this beautiful community.
Yeah, I think, and that was a lot of credit to Ella. Like Ella's amazing in building community, and as guys who have listened to her episode, like she's just amazing. She's a magnet. People want to be with her. So yeah, we sort of started, I reckon, December last year, just a small group on the beach. It was probably about 20, 25 of our mates. It's just a good thing. Like you go 6 a.m. on the beach, do some meditation, jump in the water, jump in the ice bath, and then go home, and like you've started your weekend really well. But I reckon by the third or fourth week, we had like 160 people down there one week. Like it exploded. It went from like 20 to, I reckon, 70, and then the next week it was like bang, like 150. And I think like it was a funny story because we had to get council approval obviously to be on Elwood Beach, but I think they weren't they were just thought, oh, maybe there's like 10 or 20 of them just doing like a fitness class. And like 3 weeks later, we get an email from the council. They're like, "Oh, guys, we've had like not some issues, but some people were just wondering like what all the people are. Like there was people
Looks like a cult.
There was people blocking the pathways, and we're like 6 a.m. on a Saturday morning, like pumping tunes, like people in the ice bars. Like it was so fun. And I think they're like, "Oh, look, if you get any bigger, like we need to like give you an event permit, like because you got too many people, like it needs to be an event." And we're like, "Oh yeah, no, it'll be all right." Like so, we've sort of just stayed under that threshold. We did have to like flat bat the council a little bit and just keep them happy. And we're like, "Oh, we'll stay off the footpaths and we won't, play the music too loud and all that sort of stuff." But like everyone just loved it. Like people walking their dogs, they're like, "What's going on here?" Like we had people, like going for a run down Elwood Beach, and then they're like, "Oh, we'll finish our run and we'll stop here and jump in the ice bars."
Involved.
Yeah, it was so fun. So we'll start them back up. Like winter's nuts. Like it's so cold. Like we're not going to do it in winter, but like during summer, like I'll implore anyone, like jump on the Instagram page. You'll see when it's back up.
That's the Breathhaus.
The Breathhaus, Haus _ But yeah, like you'll see it pop up and get down because it's such a fun morning. Like the weather's so good. You start your weekend off really well. And yeah, like you go jump in the ice bars, done by 8 o'clock, head over to the cafe, have a coffee. Yeah, it's just an amazing thing. And like going back to the business aspect of it, like we grew the community, like, and it sort of just grew organically. Like and even till now, we're literally word of mouth. We do no paid advertising. We have no real marketing strategy, but like we're looking into doing something obviously. But yeah, like at the moment, it's word of mouth, build the community. And we had, I think like by the time we opened the studio, we had like a couple of thousand people that had been down to the beach that knew who we were, knew what we did, followed our Instagram page. So yeah, like literally from day one of opening the studio, we just went bang. We had those customers, those people that loved it. We sort of hyped it up a little bit before we opened it. So people were like, "Oh wow, like the fun I had on the beach doing the breathwork and mindfulness, like I can just go do that every night if I wanted to." So yeah, it was a pretty cool, it sort of just happened a lot organically. Like I won't a lot of credit to Ella for that sort of community building side of it.
Yeah, I think if you're fixing a need, then like it's always going to go well. If I could buy stocks in the Breathhaus, I would load up right now. Have you always been kind of this dialed in with your business? Obviously, you're super personable. You can like talk really well, like get along with everyone. Was there a particular kind of stage in your life where you learnt all of this, or do you think it was like all the adversity earlier in your career that kind of built this for you?
100%. Yeah, I reckon it's a culmination of I'm a really independent sort of person by nature. I think I'll sort of get it off my parents. Like my dad's been self-employed. He's owned his own businesses all growing up. So I think, and both of my brothers as well, like they have their own businesses too. So I think it's just like ingrained in us to create things and we've sort of got that business mind. But yeah, going through what I did through my footy career, it sort of just like opened my eyes to not see how the world works, but like I did start delving into like some business stuff, and I think even now, surrounding myself with people who were doing things that I wanted to do, like starting business, whether it's in whatever niche or whatever sort of industry, like just surrounding yourself with those people and like you'll become the next one sort of thing. So, and I think even now, like me and you are great mates, Charlie's a great mate of ours, and we're all creating things, and it's sort of just like contagious. And yeah, so I think it's a little bit of like it was ingrained in me growing up, but then like I think going through that adversity and being like, okay, sort of now like being able to sort of use my experiences and what I've been through to help others. Like I think that at the heart of it, that's what I really enjoy doing. So like going into player management, being able to help the 18, 19-year-olds coming into the AFL system, sort of navigating them through it, having those like hurdles and those obstacles that I've overcome. Because like I said before, it's not if, but it's when these kids are going to be out of form, not play, do an injury, move interstate, like these sorts of things, and being able to be like a little bit of a big brother for them.
Yeah, well, it's consistent in your career as well, isn't it? Like it's just like helping people along the way. Like it's so... and that's always the answer is what I've found personally in business. It's always going to be like what's successful, generally speaking, is like if you can help someone and fix a need, then like you're going to do well, whether that's, from the good of your heart or whether that's to make money. Like it always works out.
Yeah, that's right. And like touching on what you said before, like putting the beach sessions on, like it we were getting trucks delivered with pallets of ice down to the beach, and
mate, ice is not expensive.
It's not cheap. Not cheap.
Sorry,
But it was like, mate, it was $500 a weekend. Like, and we had to buy the ice bars. Like, it was. Again, like, man, there's nothing better than like seeing people like having so much fun of something like we've built, but like people make it what it is. Like, we have such a good community, and yeah, I think it all sort of comes back around. Like, it all comes back. Like, those people, half the time we don't. Like, people come into the studio and they're like, oh, like, we give them a free session. Or I think when we started, we gave a lot of free sessions out, because it's not all about the money. Like, the thing is, like, we just want people to enjoy themselves, help them. This is an amazing thing. Like, Ella's like one of, if not the best facilitator. Like, she's amazing. People come to her from far and wide. We had a few girls come from like past Gippsland the other night just for a class. Like, it was crazy. Awesome. But yeah, I think that was a big part of it. Like, building the community, spending a little bit of money. Yeah.
The business thing's interesting. I remember we went out for a beer a while ago, and you were just saying like the best part of business is doing it with people and like being able to share things. Now you've got your fingers in multiple different pies. We don't need to go into all of them, but you're in volley as well, which is Charlie, who is going to be on the potty again soon. Like, what's your kind of role with volley? Obviously, I did a lot with them through Hugh and like the charity side there. You're part of that crew. Do you have like weekly meetings, etc.?
Yeah, so I was sort of pretty much from day one starting with volley. So me and Charlie, Charlie started volley. I was in helping. I basically do partnerships. Sort of head of partnerships is my title there. So basically, like, connecting with brands, sponsors, anything to do with like just connecting people. I think Charlie's amazing at everything, but I think being in the industries that I've been in, like going through the AFL, going through player management, lots of relationships with brands and influential people. I think that's how you got into a volley as well, like through, I remember we were meeting and I was like, Charlie, mate, like, we've got to get Louis. Like Louis is amazing. And I think and then just one thing goes to another, but just like being able to like use my network to help, like, me and Charlie best mates, to be able to help Charlie, and we're like, hey, like, I'm in, like, let's go, let's build volley, and yeah, it's sort of just gone strength to strength. So basically, my role is networking, partnerships, all that sort of stuff.
Mate, it's awesome. I'm absolutely loving our chat, but we've got the next one coming in, which is Charlie. So thank you so much for coming on. People want to follow you. It's just Nathan.Freeman, is it?
Nath Freeman 10 on Instagram.
Good. And volley?
I don't know what my Threads handle is yet. No, it's probably the same, to be honest. No, I don't post on that. But
come on, you should post on Threads.
Oh, nah.
Why not, mate?
I'll struggle to post on one bloody...
Yeah, I know. The ship is sailing, though.
The ship's sailing.
You got to get on it.
I reckon... But is Threads still... I don't know if Threads is still popular. I reckon it's dropped off a bit.
Mate, my Threads is growing. I'm sorry. I already got 15K.
Follow Louis on Threads. If you want to follow Louis.
Yeah, I'll talk about Nath.
Yeah, Nath Freeman 10 on Instagram.
Cool.
The Breathhaus _ on Instagram. Volley.now on Instagram. Yeah, you'll find us.
They'll find it. Mate, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. I've loved this chat.
Thanks, Lou. It's good to finally be on, mate.
Sunday run, baby.